Hi, and welcome to College Planning Untangled, where we help families simplify the college planning process. I'm Kristin Clark. I work with students to help them figure out a career path and a college major or another path that helps them get to their goal. And I'm here with Bobby Hood with Bobby Hood Online Tutoring, our resident SAT ACT guru. And Bobby, how are you doing this week?
Just great. So today we're going to talk about a topic that's in my area, the digital SAT, and what people should think about that. So I've already had parents, saying, "Oh, I've heard something about this SAT is going to have a transition. It's going to be digital, something, something," and nobody really knows much more than that. So
Yeah, and I'm sure as parents of probably sophomore, freshmen, they're probably a little bit nervous about being guinea pigs here, huh?
absolutely. I mean, this is a thing that happens. I guess it happens, maybe every 10 years or something like that. The SAT decides to make a big change, and there's all this lead up to it. And so the last time this happened was 2015, 2016. And on that one, the SAT changed so that it became way more similar to the ACT. And it switched from the 2400 scoring scale with 3 sections back to the old 1600 scoring scales. Everybody's now used to that 1600 scoring scale.
Yeah, and it has to be hugely disruptive.
It really is. I mean, because colleges don't know how to evaluate the new test and the new scores. And so what happens every single time they do this? And the funny thing is, ACT hasn't done this in a long, long time. The only thing ACT has done is little minor things like, adding a dual passage like 15 years ago, or eliminating the essay, which they both have eliminated their essays now, which is better.
Yeah.
But so what does happen is every time SAT does one of these big things, first thing, everybody just runs away from the SAT until they figure
Okay.
out how the new test is going to go. Because
I was going to say that they first freak out.
well, right,
Right?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Because they say, "Oh, what are we going to do?" And so many people think that you have to take both, or oh, this state is an SAT state, so I need to take it, or this state is an ACT state, so I don't care, right? But anybody anywhere can take either test. There are not any states that are one or the other, although some states will give you one or the other in high school or whatever. But the main thing is, like in 2015, they had all these specifications and said the SAT was going to change in a particular way. And the first 9 months of the test was dramatically different, extremely hard, very confusing. And there was a big backlash, and they just changed a lot of it. And so after about 9 months, it settled down to be a slightly easier test.
I know, but not for
it's
nothing, Bobby. You're
Mhm.
paying money to take these assessments too, or these tests.
Absolutely. Well, no, and I mean, that means basically 1 year of students just had all these very weird SAT scores from a test that was too hard and badly designed. And so it's no fun to be the guinea pig. The ACT has been the same test for 20, 25 years. There's lots more ACT tests out there to practice on. So the first thing I'm going to say is, when this changeover happens, you're going to want to include the ACT as part of your process, because
Right.
it's consistent. We know what it's like and all that. Right.
Yeah, and Bobby, tell us if you're ready to go there, what
Yeah.
changes are going to happen.
Yeah. So that said, right now, let's talk about what's going to happen with the SAT. So currently the SAT has verbal and math, and it takes 3 hours plus break time to take the test. So it's basically 3.5 hours to take the test, which is about the same amount of time as the ACT. So they've already started it internationally. The SAT has gone digital already internationally, but they're going to introduce it in the United States. The way they always do this is they start it with the PSAT in the fall. So the first thing that's going to happen is this fall, the PSAT is going to be digital, and that'll be the first thing that is digital. And so students who are sophomores right now, if they want to become national merit scholars, well, all of the sophomores are going to be taking the PSAT in the fall, right? Everybody in the country is offered it. But if you want to be a national merit finalist, well, you're going to have to prepare for that PSAT, right? So current sophomores are going to care about that. Current juniors, it will not affect them. And then starting in the spring of 2024, so a year from now, that's when the SAT is going to go digital. And so students who are juniors now, if they are going to take the SAT or ACT, they'll do it now or this summer or in the fall. You should not be still trying to take the SAT as a senior in the spring. So current juniors don't need to think about this at all. But current sophomores do, because at a minimum, you're going to be taking the PSAT in digital form this fall. And so the way the digital test works, instead of taking 3.5 hours, it's 2 hours and 14 minutes of testing time plus breaks. So probably going to be 2 hours and 45 minutes. It's approximately 45 minutes shorter. And the big deal with this test is it's still going to be scored on the 1600 scale. It's still going to be half verbal, half math. But now what's going to happen is you come in and you take a verbal section, and it has 27 questions. And it asks you some grammar stuff and some reading comprehension stuff at a sort of medium level of questions. Some's easy, mostly medium, some hard. And then when you finish that section, depending on how well you did, it then starts a second section. This is called computer adaptive testing. This is the way the GRE this is the way the GRE test works for those who are in college and trying to go to graduate school. If you do well on the first section of verbal questions, then they present you with another section of another 24 questions or 27 questions. And those questions are harder and your score will be higher. But now you get harder questions. If you did kind of medium, then you get another section of medium difficulty questions. If you did poorly on the first section, then the second section will be easier than the first section, but you get a lower score. So it adapts and makes the test harder the better you do. And then the same
you see
thing
the face
for
I'm
math.
making, right? I'm like, that it just doesn't feel right. And it seems like there might be a way to game the system, but you've got to, okay.
It's extremely stressful, right? Same thing then after you finish the verbal, then you're going to have math, and it's going to be a 22 question section. And most of it is multiple choice, but some of them you'll have to type in an answer. And then if you do well, you get a harder second section that's another. And each of those is 35 minutes long. And so 2 math sections, and the second one is harder than the first if you did well, right?
So Bobby, what's the purpose? Why are they doing this? And where are these kids having to take it? Are they taking it at home?
So they're going to be taking them in school on devices provided by the school or provided by College Board, which is going to be kind of strange, or at home. Like, schools can give the option to let them take it at school. But I think so the PSAT is going to happen in school with devices that either College Board provides. That's what they say it's going to be. This could absolutely change, because, I mean, the idea that they're going to find devices for every student in the nation to all take the PSAT, right? But it's designed to be taken on tablets. And I think but for the actual digital SAT, I think it will be offered, right? You take it on a tablet at home. It's a very strange thing, but it is designed to be taken on a tablet, and in fact, not on a full computer. I think it has to be taken on a tablet.
And I'm sorry, I think I lost this. Did you say at home or at school?
So I think schools can offer it, but I think students are going to be able to also take it at home if they have a device, or they can, like, supposedly College Board will have an option where you can request, and they will send you a device that you then send back. Which that's what they say, and we're waiting to see, how that really works. So we'll do an update once we know how it's really working, right? But one of the things that's a big deal here is a big part of tutoring and taking these tests, preparing for these tests, especially with the math section, is using your pencil to, you've got a circle or a triangle and you draw lines on it and chop things up, right? And you need to be able to look at things, right? And with the reading sections, it's having a piece of paper and you search, right? And circle things when you find them. And this is not going to work that same way. Now, students today are much better at, like, visually dealing with things that are on a screen. But many of my students, like, the ACT is also like the ACT has already started being offered digitally. So the ACT, sometimes a high school will have a day where they say, we are giving the ACT in school. And that has now switched to when they do that, that's offered digitally. And all the students take it on a tablet. So that's already started happening, but only with the in-school school day where a school opts to give the test and pays the money to give the test to all their students. And when my students have taken those, they have not liked them very much.
That was my question. Have they seen a difference in the scores on average and that kind of stuff?
My students have, come back to me and said, okay, I took the March SAT in school. I mean, at March ACT in school, and it was horrible. Like, doing reading where everything's on the screen, you have to keep scrolling up and down to find the things in the passage. It just doesn't work the same way. And same thing with math. Like, yeah, you might have some scratch paper, but you have to draw the shape on it instead of being able to just, draw a line on the figure or on the graph or whatever. It makes science on the ACT harder. It makes that on. And so I think this is the thing that's going to happen, right? Is that eventually paper is going to go away and this is going to be done on screen. But with the ACT, when they went to this digital option that is only happens on school day tests, it's the same test. It's just presented visually, on a tablet. The SAT, this is a completely different test. It tests different things. It has different things it tests in math. It has different things it tests in verbal. So everything is going to be completely new for that.
They changed two variables, so there's no way to even go back and forth and say, how is it different as far as scores?
That is a really important thing, because the whole tradition of this stuff is, you take these tests and then they like if you have two SATs or two ACTs, you take the March, the April ACT and you take the June ACT. If the math is way harder on one of them, well, then maybe if you miss 5 questions on the really hard one, you get a 34 or a 35, a near perfect score, even though you missed 5. But if the math test is easy, if you miss 5 questions, you get a 31, right? That's how they adjust the scoring. It's called equating, so that when you hear this student got a 31 on the ACT, that means a particular thing, right? And so colleges can compare, okay, these students are doing this much compared to last year's students. And that's also why they give the percentile number, which is what percentile did you rank? And so with the SAT, each time the SAT makes one of these dramatic, gigantic changes every 10 years, nobody knows what the scores mean. And you say, okay, are they equating it so that a 1400 on this test is the same as a 1400 on the test last year? Well,
it's not.
It should mean the same percentile, but it doesn't.
No, it won't, because you think about it.
Right. Because it's not the same percentile. Like when you look, it doesn't.
No, it's not, because the way they're doing the variable, I get that better now that you've talked through it a little bit longer. It's going to change how easy it is to get the perfect score.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. There's no question.
And not that that's easy. Let's be clear.
No, right. But yeah, the most importantly, it's going to make it very difficult to predict what your score is going to be. And that's what I tell all my students is, if you take enough ACTs or SATs so that you get so familiar with the test that instead of being scared by it, you are bored by it, you know exactly what score you're going to get when you go in there, because you got the same score on the last 3 tests that you took at home, and they were real past ACTs. So you walk in and you take the test. And the only thing that can change that is if you personally, emotionally freak out or change your behavior, right? But so that's how you do that. And with this thing, you're not going to know, and colleges are not going to know exactly how to handle those scores. So it's just uncertainty, and uncertainty is not what we want in the college planning process, right?
Right.
And
so what I hear you saying is if you're a rising high school junior, you might want to get those SATs taken sooner versus later so that you don't have that weird variable in the middle of it.
Absolutely. Right. So first thing, be sure everyone should include the ACT in their process, right? Because the ACT is consistent and you can trust the scores and you can break the scores, right? And colleges are going to know what to do with those scores, right? If you're a junior or about to be a rising senior, or no, if you're a sophomore and you're about to be a rising junior this summer, you are going to have to take the digital PSAT this fall. So probably ought to practice that too. Just don't put all your eggs in the SAT, PSAT basket, right? That's the main thing, right? And certainly get the SAT, if you're going to take it, get it done in the fall before it turns digital. And
Yes.
let someone else be the guinea pig, right? Other people do it. Let them take it. Let them see how it is. But it's going to be, I mean, maybe the current 8th graders, maybe by the time they're juniors, then it'll be a known quantity and we understand and colleges know how to deal with the scores. And then you can pick and choose which one's going to be better. But like right now, it is not very easy. Like you can't just go, oh, which one's better for me, SAT or ACT? You know, there's very little practice you can do on the digital SAT. And just, I don't know, it's a funny thing, this thing where, you know, you do some questions and then it gives you a harder section. That's very intimidating. When suddenly you get this section full of much harder questions, it's hard to get them done in the time, right? It's going to be very intimidating.
It is. And I'm sure the researchers, I mean, there's science that goes behind that. So I think that, you know, at the end of the day, you just kind of have to trust in that they're looking at the science and making it actually probably more fair.
Yeah, in theory, like there are benefits to this digital thing. I mean, I will say getting the test done in 2 hours and 15 minutes instead of 3 hours, that's better, right?
Yeah, less
Students are
fatigue, let's
exhausted
face
by the
it.
time, right?
Yeah, there's less
Students get
fatigue in
exhausted,
that.
right?
Yeah.
So there are some definite benefits, right? But it's just let's wait and see, you know, once we know exactly what it's going to be like, right? Because right now you can look at what they say, but it often changes once they actually implement, right?
Well, and I'm sure they're tweaking the heck out of this thing.
Oh, absolutely. Right. Well, and that's part of the thing too, is see, all of this means past copies of tests go away. They've already gone away. The SAT stopped 3 years ago, stopped distributing paper copies of its tests, which then get turned into PDF files, which then students can obtain and use for practice. Now, the only way for the past few years, after you take an SAT, it's available online and you can look at them on the screen, but you can't PDF that. And so it makes the SAT much harder to prepare for because we don't know what the list of questions is because every student's taking a different set of questions, right?
Sure.
Like there's the easy and the medium and the hard. So you just don't know. And so that's the thing is like the ACT where we've got, 50, 100 past ACTs that, we know the test, we know the scoring, we know how it's scored. The SAT is hiding how the test is scored. It's going to be very hard to predict what your score is, all of that. So we'll look at this again. I think sometime this summer or fall, there'll be maybe more, more practice tests out, something like that. Maybe College Board will reveal more information about it and then we can do a follow-up and talk about it. But for now, I would just say, hey, call me if contact me if you have any questions. You can always contact me through the website. We can talk about it and start thinking about if you've got a current sophomore, this summer is the time to start preparing anyway, right? So sometime this summer, get with me, start working on the ACT. And then as a kind of afterthought, after we've got, once you've learned the skills from the ACT, then we'll talk about, okay, here's how the digital PSAT is going to go. Why not run through a practice test on that and just use all the same skills, but learn it on the ACT first, if that makes sense.
Yes, and I'm putting your website, which I've got scrolling right now. I'm going to put it in the chat so that people can get to you because I'm sure they're going to have questions.
Well, that sounds great. Yeah, it's always, always does freak people out when these things happen, right? And so that's it. But that's what we're all about, right? Is simplify things. And the simple answer right now is, hey, the ACT is not freaking people out and weird. The ACT is staying consistent. you know.
All right. Give Bobby a call. Thanks,
All righty.
Bobby.